to today's Los Blancos podcast. Today I'll be discussing the Arsenal game, which is coming up ahead tomorrow. It's a big one, first leg of the Champions League in the quarterfinals, and we've got a big tie at the Emirates. In terms of, it's a team that, in terms of Arsenal, their Premier League season is, practically finished. I think they haven't got a chance to win the title at this point. They're 11 points behind Liverpool, but they're pretty comfortable in terms of getting the Champions League as well, 10 points ahead of 5th place Manchester City. So their season so far has been okay. It's been okay because, at the end of the day, they are going to get Champions League, they're going to get second place, but again, they've fallen short of their goal of winning the Premier League. Reasons for that, it's silly losses, and then silly draws, silly drop points here, there, and everywhere. But it's been pretty much the same thing, same problems as previous years. They just haven't been able to score enough goals in these tight games and being able to get past those tight games. And defensively, they've been very good. They've been very good defensively, but it's once again just the issue of the attack. In terms of their injuries, they've lost Gabriel Jesus, who is obviously the main centre forward, the only centre forward that they've got in the squad, as well as Kai Havertz. They lost him quite a few games ago now. Alongside that, they've lost Takehiro Tomiyasu as well, and Gabriel. And I can't remember which it was. Last week, I think they lost Gabriel, and they lost Riccardo Calafiori as well. So there's been quite a few key players just taken away from Arsenal. And then if we look at their predicted lineups, this is what I've written down as their predicted lineup. I'm not 100% sure whether this is the lineup that they go with, but this is what I think they will go with. In goal, David Raya, right back, Urin Timber, centre backs, Saliba and Jakob Kivior, left back, Lewis Skelly, midfield of Odegaard, Partey and Rice, and then front three of Saka, Martinelli and Mikel Merino. I think let's start with the interesting one. I think Mikel Merino up top is very interesting to me because obviously when he's at Real Sociedad, he's not a striker. He's never been a striker in his career. So it's very, very weird that, he's been doing this for quite a while now. He's been playing Mikel Merino as a striker. And obviously, I think Mikel Merino is a very technically good player. He's a very technically good player. But when he was at Real Sociedad, the thing that stood out to me the most was his physical attributes, getting up in the air a lot of the time, getting up for tackles. And obviously, that's going to suit Arsenal if they want to press. They want to press and they want to get those legs in up top. Obviously, Mikel Merino is going to help with that. But in terms of actual striking duties, it does very confuse me a lot. The fact that, Arsenal are struggling to score goals a lot of the time and they're playing Mikel Merino there. Obviously, the options aren't there for them to go and get, just put a striker there and score plenty of goals. But this is definitely an unorthodox thing to do by Arteta. But, in terms of results, I think it hasn't been too bad actually from Arsenal's point of view playing Mikel Merino up top. He's been okay. He's been completely fine. In fact, you can argue he's been good up top as well. So it's a very confusing thing, I think, having Mikel Merino there. But you can't knock it if it works, right? And Arteta's obviously drawn the short end of the straw here in terms of his squad not having a striker, and he's making the best out of a bad situation in which both of his strikers that he would have wanted to play in terms of Havertz and Jesus, they're both injured. So, he's done well to adapt, but at the end of the day, it is still Mikel Merino up top, which I'm not sure how much threat it can pose. That being said, it is against Real Madrid's defence, which causes problems for itself. So it's not like Arsenal aren't going to have chances just because they got Mikel Merino up top. That's not the case. I think the next big thing is obviously that Saka's obviously back now. Bukayo Saka's back for Arsenal. Initially, he was not projected to come back for this game. He is back. He's fit and he looks very good. It's going to be a worry because obviously Folo Mendes not playing this game. He's injured. And then we've got a big issue on who's going to start left back. My personal choice would be Fran Garcia, but I've just seen a report. I've just seen a report saying that the favourites to start this game are going to be David Alaba and Lucas Vazquez. We'll get on to Lucas Vazquez in a couple of minutes, but David Alaba at left back in this year, in this day and age, David Alaba at left back. This isn't the young David Alaba that was coming through under Pep. This isn't the one that was world class for all those years at Bayern. This is 32-year-old David Alaba coming off of a ACL injury who hasn't looked good at centre back, let alone at left back. I'm really not sure about this. I think there is a potential for David Alaba to get absolutely rinsed, repeated constantly by Bukayo Saka, and I'm worried. I'm worried about that. Listen, I understand Fran Garcia is not a foolproof option at left back, but at the end of the day, he is somewhat of a. He's going to pose a physical challenge. At least he's going to be athletically able to keep up with Bukayo Saka, and he actually gives us something going forward. I'm just like, I'm lost for words. And the one thing I can say is, if you go, let's say, the rumours are that we're probably going to sell Fran Garcia next summer. If you go the 2 years of Fran Garcia's career at Real Madrid without even trying him in one of these games, especially when you know that when you know that Ferland Mendy's not playing great either, if you go 2 years without trying Fran Garcia in a big game, then I think that's going to be an opportunity missed. I think you've got to at least try him in one. If he starts tomorrow and he fails, then fair enough. But you've got to try him in at least one game, because that could revolutionise your season. If he goes and locks down Bukayo Saka, then you suddenly have an opportunity to play him against Lamine Yamal, and you suddenly have an opportunity to try and do better against Barcelona. It's an option, and I think you should try it. And at the very least, you should be playing Camavinga there, not even David Alaba. Obviously, if you play Camavinga there, that leaves you short in midfield, which brings another issue. So this is why I think Fran Garcia is the best option to start here. But I'm really worried about that matchup. Whoever Bukayo Saka comes up against, I'm worried that Bukayo Saka can definitely cook whoever he comes up against. In terms of their midfield, Odegaard, Partey and Rice is very good midfield, I think. I think Odegaard is going to be a big issue for us in terms of he's caused us issues in the past with Real Sociedad. And I think his profile of just being able to press very, very well, being able to pick out beautiful pass, and being able to just, snuff out any threat in that Real Madrid defence, snuff out any weakness in that Real Madrid defence, and cause issues. I think that's the biggest problem for Real Madrid is the fact that any issues that we've got, Odegaard will be able to sniff out, Odegaard will be able to cause problems for us. So I think that's something which I'm definitely worried about. The potential of Martin Odegaard just going ahead and cooking our defence. Just making sure that every weakness is constantly exposed. Especially if we play two idiots at fullback who physically aren't able to keep up with their counterparts. So it's definitely a worry of mine what Odegaard can do in terms of picking out the defence. But I think we're gonna have to make sure that we do better to try and defend him. In terms of, I think you have to make sure that you try and put someone on him. Obviously, the next big issue is obviously Schumann is suspended for this game, which some people might celebrate that, but I think it's a bad issue right now for us, because we are very short in terms of midfield options right now as of yet, anyways. And that's obviously why Carlo's going to put Lucas Vazquez at right back, most likely, because he wants to have Fede in midfield. But, I mean, if you look at the midfield options, what I would start is Bellingham, Camavinga, and then I would look at the other options and I would say, damn, we're struggling in terms of options. What are we going to do? It does look like Valverde is probably the only option that we're going to have to do, because I don't think Luka Modric is suited for this game whatsoever. I think this could be a game in which he gets totally and utterly overrun by the Arsenal midfield. So I need, it's probably going to have to be Bellingham, Camavinga and Valverde, but I'm not happy with playing Lucas Vazquez at right back. Even if he is only playing against Martinelli, who hasn't had a great season, I think it is a big issue for us. no matter what. In terms of the next thing, let's talk about the Real Madrid starting lineup. Goalkeeper, we've obviously had the issues with Fran Gonzalez starting centre in goal. Courtois been named in the squad list, and I would be surprised if Courtois doesn't play. But there is still that worry whether he isn't fit, and so maybe there's an issue in terms of you're going to start Fran Gonzalez, which he did nothing wrong. Maybe he could have done better on the second goal against Valencia, but it's not Courtois. It's not a guy who's going to actively win you a game. And so that's the main issue, especially with this defense, who's going to be shipping chance after chance after chance. You need an actual goalkeeper in there. So I think there's a big issue there, one in which I'm really worried about. That being said, I think defense, right back, I'm going to play Fede Valverde right back, but Carlo would definitely play. Carlo would definitely play. He'll definitely play Lucas Vazquez at right back, especially with the midfield shortcomings. I think we're going to have to play Fede in midfield just to make sure that midfield doesn't get overrun. But I'm really worried about Lucas Vazquez. 4 games in a row he's going to start if he starts this game, so it's another poor opportunity for us. Then the centre backs, I would go for Rudiger and Asensio. You know, the last 4 games we've lost is because Asensio hasn't started. Whenever Asensio starts, we don't lose. So there's clearly a trend right there. Whether it's causation, we don't know. I can suggest that it is, but we don't know. But yeah, I think it's very obviously going to be Asensio and Rudiger here. Left back, I said Fran Garcia, but Carlos most likely going to put Alaba, which it's not great. It's not great. Physically, athletically, Saka's just going to overrun David Alaba. So it's going to be more pressure on the defence, more pressure on the goalkeeper, more pressure on our goal, but what can you do? And then the midfield, personally, I would go for a midfield 3 of Camavinga, Modric and Bellingham. I'd tell Bellingham to stay back because his team will get absolutely overrun otherwise. Hit Arsenal on the counter, just make sure Mbappe and Vinicius can run, stretch their legs. And then the front 3 I'd go for is Vini, Mbappe, Rodrigo. It will be interesting to see what Arsenal do actually in response to Vini, Rodrigo and Mbappe, because we know that Arsenal are comfortable in terms of coming out of their shell, pressing high, and making sure that they could try and split a team, but they're also comfortable sitting back and defending. You know, they are a comfortable team doing both. And so I'm not sure what they're going to do actually, because we know that ideally Real Madrid and Carlo Ancelotti would like to sit back and just counter. But if Arsenal go ahead and do this thing first, then Real Madrid will have no choice but to come out of their shell, and that's where I'm a bit worried, because then you're going to have David Alaba and Lucas Vazquez tracking Martinelli and Saka on the counters, which is not a recipe for success whatsoever, is it? So I'm a bit worried for that. The one thing I think we can definitely exploit is that front 3 on counters. I think that Arsenal defence, like I said, is got 3 centre backs and one young fullback. You can definitely use the pace in this game. You can use your pace and try and get in behind. That being said, the guys up top have not been in good form, and hopefully the thing can change this time. Hopefully they can make an impact this time. But that's more of wishful thinking rather than a guarantee. That being said, Mbappe said it's time to start making impacts in the big game. So it's time to decide games, Mbappe. It's time to decide games. That being said, what else have we got to say? The set piece issue. I saw a stat: 10 goals from set pieces we've conceded this season, which is the most in a long time. It's not great, and especially against this Arsenal team who are clearly going to make things. They're going to make the set pieces. They're going to put emphasis on that. I think we're going to have to defend a lot better. Be smarter with your defense. You've got 4 good aerial players. What's the solution? Now I've watched a few of those Arsenal corners that Gabriel's been scoring. Obviously Gabriel's not here, but I think the big thing is you've got to make sure that. So basically, Arsenal like to crowd the back post, put pressure on the goalkeeper, and then once when the corner's taken in, Arsenal players come run forward towards the near post, and there's ultimately the goalkeeper doesn't know what's happening. He's marked. There's a guy on the goalkeeper. There's 5 Arsenal players running in, and eventually one of them will get onto the ball. So I think zonal marking is very important here, in terms of making sure that the goalkeeper isn't crowded, making sure that you aren't just absolutely exploited in that way. Put your 4 good aerial defenders in good zones, and make sure that they don't get dumped on. Basically, do not make sure that make sure that they do not get dumped on. You got 4 guys: Tchouaméni, Rudiger, Asensio, Bellingham. Those 4 need to be good aerial headers, and then if you've got other guys like Camavinga, Alaba if he plays, use those guys to try and mark, try and cause a little bit of an issue in terms of just being a bit of an obstruction, right? So I think that would be the best tactic to go. But I know Carl hasn't done any of that, and we're probably going to concede off the corner anyway. So what use is it me saying? Apart from that, I think that's all I've got to say really about this game. It's going to be a tough one. We know that Arsenal are difficult, and it's at the Emirates, where Arsenal want to be. What I'd want, I think, just get a solid result. Get a solid result here. 0-0's fine. 1-1's fine. Just take some sort of just positive result going into the Bernabeu, and then I have a strong feeling that Arsenal, if it is 1-1, let's say, Arsenal will probably fold under the pressure of the Bernabeu. So just make sure that you have a positive result, don't get overrun, and make sure that it's no more than 1 goal if you have to lose this game. But yeah, that is it for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's Los Blancos podcast, a little bit more analytical ahead of this Arsenal game. I'm not sure whether I'll do a review podcast after the Arsenal game. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the Arsenal game. If it's so bad, then I will do one. But if it's one where it's just like a boring 0-0, then probably not. We'll see what happens. I'll see you guys next week then. Like, subscribe, and bye bye.